Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the basketball team began its season on Saturday with an exhibition contest with Marian University.
And after yet another close Big Ten loss, the Hoosiers will host top 10 ranked Wisconsin this Saturday with their last chance to break through. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Austin Render.
And I'm Lydia Knoll. The Indiana football team will host another top 10 team this Saturday at Memorial Stadium, and our Joe Cantor has the preview.
The Indiana football team will welcome the number 4 team in the country to Bloomington on Saturday. Wisconsin and Indiana are two teams whose seasons are going in very different directions. Wisconsin comes in at 8-0 and a perfect 5-0 in the Big Ten Conference, while Indiana at 3-5 overall and 0-5 in the Big Ten puts the Hoosiers as one of only 2 teams without a conference win this year. Despite many critics pointing out their weak strength of schedule, Wisconsin keeps on trucking behind a loaded offensive line and the 4th highest rusher in all of college football this season, Jonathan Taylor. For the Hoosiers, more questions than answers came out of their Saturday loss to Maryland, but that wasn't all they lost. Their special teams guru, Jay Shun Harris, tore his ACL for the 3rd time in his career, putting him out for the season, meaning the Hoosiers have seen the last big run from Jay Shun this season. The offense for Indiana looked promising as they went for nearly 500 yards. Both Peyton Ramsey and Richard Lego in relief was very successful throwing the ball, finding Simi Cobbs, Luke Timian, and Big Ten Freshman of the Week, Whop Fillier, with regularity. Fillier had a whopping 127 yards on 13 catches and a touchdown. The Hoosiers will need more breakout players on offense if they hope to challenge the Badgers on Saturday.
Just want to continue to reiterate that the fight of this football team and of our staff and opportunity to welcome Wisconsin, number 4th ranked team in the country. You know, we're the only team in the nation to play 3 top 5 teams this season, and that's just the fact of our season. And we have a great opportunity this Saturday to play a great football team, top 5 defense coming into town with Wisconsin. And
the bright spot for IU, they've played well against top 25 teams this season, especially here at Memorial Stadium. Wisconsin's ground and pound offense hasn't been conducive to blowing opponents out this season, even in the much weaker Big Ten West. We'll find out Saturday if Tom Allen's defense can step up and get him his first conference win of his head coaching career. Reporting for IUS TV, I'm Joe Cantor.
The Hoosiers and the Badgers will kick off at noon on Saturday on ABC. If you can't find a screen, Brad Davis and David Sugarman have the call for WIUX 99.1 FM.
The IU men's and women's cross-country teams were in action this past Sunday as Indiana hosted the Big Ten Championship. Here is IUS TV reporter Spencer Aber with the recap.
This past weekend, Indiana University hosted the men's and women's cross-country Big Ten Championships on a cold morning in Bloomington. The men kicked it off as the Hoosiers were led by sophomore Ben Veach, who finished 4th with a time of 24 minutes, 13 seconds, and 0.6 of a second. Earned the honors of first team All-Big Ten. Second Hoosier to finish was Kyle Mao, who recorded a time of 24 minutes, 38 seconds, and 0.8 of a second, which was good for 17th overall. On the women's side, it was all about redshirt junior Catherine Receiver, who took home the Big Ten individual title, setting a new course record with a time of 20 minutes, 10 seconds, and 0.3 of a second. Redshirt junior Brenna Calder was the second Indiana runner to finish with a time of 21 minutes, 7 seconds, and 0.2 of a second, which got her 28th. Both teams ended up taking 7th place finishes in the event. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Spencer Aber.
The men and women will be back on the course on November 10th as they head up to Terre Haute, Indiana for the NCAA Great Lakes Regional Championships.
Indiana basketball kicked off their season on Saturday when they hosted the Marian Knights for an exhibition game. Jordan Burrows joins us in studio with his takeaways from the game.
Perfect. Thank you, Lydia. This weekend marked the unofficial start of the 118th season of Indiana basketball. and 47th season played inside Simon Scott Assembly Hall. The Hoosiers stomped the Marion Knights in their first exhibition game, but that's a nobody's surprise. So let's take an in-depth look at the positives for an Indiana team that seems to be already counted out. Look right here, boom. It starts with guard Devontae Green. I mean, he really put on a show Saturday. First, he started the year as the highest scorer at Hoosier Hysteria, and then comes into Assembly again and knocks down 22 points. He follows that with 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Head coach Archie Miller said he has seen Devontae assert himself in practice and also added he may become a very, very important player to the Hoosiers. Also, well, you have to look at this. The turnovers limited in this exhibition match. As a Hoosier fan, that's got to impress you. Only 10 turnovers in 40 minutes of basketball. That marks the turnover rate just below 14%. Last season, the Hoosiers' turnover rate, not too impressive in their first 2 exhibition matches against Hope College and Bellarmine, 18.8% and 23.5%. Yes, the game was just an exhibition, but for an Indiana team with such a storied history, this is a tremendous start. I think this team will surprise not just Hoosier fans, but sports fans all around the country. We'll see this team beat teams it shouldn't and lose to teams it shouldn't. But in the end, this is a building block year that I think will make a sturdy base for Archie Miller's tenure here at Indiana. Lydia and Austin, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Jordan. While the basketball exhibition game won't count for Crimson Guard points, there are still some other opportunities for you.
Here are the events that you can get out to this weekend to rack up those Crimson Guard reward points.
When Hoosier Sports Night continues, wrestling reporter Michael Tilka joins us to discuss the upcoming season. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night. The wrestling season unofficially began last Thursday with the Cream and Crimson duel, and here to discuss that and everything IU wrestling is IUS TV wrestling beat reporter Michael Tilka. Michael, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure as always, Austin.
So first look at this roster. The thing that stands out, there's no seniors at all on this IU wrestling team. So just kind of talk about who was lost and who can kind of fill their voids this year.
So yeah, you mentioned the seniors, none on the roster this year for IU wrestling. And one of the big seniors that they're going to be missing this year is going to be Nate Jackson, who was a 100 victory wrestler at a 184-pound class and was an All-American for the Hoosiers. He's going to be one of the big seniors whose shoes are going to definitely need to be filled, but he's going to be one that's definitely going to be missed.
Yeah, last week IU had their Cream and Crimson duel. So what were your biggest takeaways from the event?
My biggest takeaway from the event was that not necessarily what happened during the Cream and Crimson duels, but just the fact that they had the duel to begin with, I think, is what was important, because the reason why Indiana Wrestling held this was just so that fans could see what excitement is in store for the Indiana Wrestling team. Like you mentioned earlier, no seniors on the roster. This wrestling team is the only IU men's varsity sport to not feature a single senior on the roster. So that's something that a lot of fans are looking forward to, is just the fact that this is a young team that's only going to get better, and that was showcased last Thursday night for the Cream and Crimson duels.
Who would you say kind of stood out in the duels for IU?
For me personally, I think the biggest standout to me was Liam Cronin at 125 pounds. Now Cronin, he's in a tough spot because there's a guy right ahead of him, some of you might have heard of him, named Elijah Oliver. Oliver coming off of a NCAA qualification last year for the NCAA tournament, but Cronin gave Oliver quite a match, the result of it ending 3-1 with Oliver still on top, but still a fantastic match nonetheless, and he's definitely going to give Oliver a run for his money at that position this year.
And there's some big news around the volleyball and the wrestling teams this year, is that this is the last year in university gymnasiums. So just kind of talk about what the team's doing in that transition and what's ahead for IU wrestling.
So what's ahead for IU wrestling is that this is, like you said, the last year for not only the wrestling team but the volleyball team, and they will be moving into Wilkinson Hall next year, which is going to be situated near Simon Scott Assembly Hall, near Memorial Hall, and they're looking to upgrade their facilities. There's going to be more seating for the fans. There's going to be better lighting. There's better everything, basically. But the big thing for me is that it brings both teams closer to Indiana students. Where the university gym is situated right now, it's off of campus. It's difficult for buses to get out there and for fans and students alike to get out there. So the move itself, location, is really the big thing behind this move.
And just to put a bow on things here, what are some of your expectations? We know the Big Ten is loaded in terms of talent. So what are your expectations this year and where IU may stack up?
I think IU should definitely be excited for their season with the Big Ten, even if you finish at the middle of the pack or the bottom of the pack. That's still not necessarily a bad thing because, like you said, the Big Ten is absolutely loaded with talent with teams like Iowa, Minnesota, Ohio State, Penn State. So I don't think they should be too worried necessarily about where they finish in the Big Ten with how good it is, but how they put wrestlers in the NCAA tournament. And they have wrestlers that are going to do that with Devin Skatska, Elijah Oliver, Jake Danishek. It should be an exciting year for the Hoosiers, and fans should definitely check it out this winter.
Well, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing what you put out here and what the IU wrestling team puts out this season.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
The Indiana men's and women's swim and dive teams were back in the pool this past Friday when they traveled to Knoxville to compete against University of Tennessee and Kentucky. The #1 ranked men's team continued their dominant start to the season as they took care of number 15 Tennessee and demolished unranked Kentucky. The team now has a record of 4-0 on the year and has extended their dual meet win streak to 17 in a row. Meanwhile, the #7 women's team was able to take down number 15 Kentucky as well, but was beat out by number 12 Tennessee. Their record now stands at 2-2. Both Hoosier teams combined to win 14 events and posted 7 times that were top 10 in the country.
For the women's team, their day was highlighted by a strong first-place performance in the 200 medley relay, finishing a full second above the next best team. On the men's side of this race, IU's squad couldn't quite match the women in the standings, but had a strong showing nonetheless. The A team finished with the second fastest time in the nation, but Tennessee topped them with the fastest time. IU's B team finished the race strong as well, as they joined the A group in the top 3.
After trips to Gainesville and Knoxville, the Hoosier swimming and diving teams won't have to worry about travel for a while, as their next out-of-state meet isn't until winter break. That's all we have for today's show, so as always, don't forget to like our page, IUSTV Sports, on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter at IUSTV Sports. For Austin Render, I'm Lydia Knoll, and we'll see you next week.